Today, we're grabbing our magnifying glasses and putting on our detective hats. Why? Because we're tackling a massive historical case, ancient India. We're going to figure out how in the world historians piece together a complex ancient past when the single most important clue, a history book from that time, doesn't even exist. Let's get into it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. It's a huge puzzle, right? If you don't have a clear step-by-step story written by the people who were actually there, where do you even start? This is the central challenge, and honestly, it's what makes digging into ancient India's history so incredibly fascinating. So here's the thing. Unlike, say, the ancient Greeks or Romans who had guys like Herodotus and Tacitus writing down all the big events, the wars, the kings, the politics, early Indian civilization just didn't prioritize that. Their great literary works were aimed at something else entirely. Things like philosophy, religion, and just telling epic, sprawling stories. So the mystery deepens. Okay, so to crack this case, a historian can't just go to one source. Nope. Instead, they have this amazing toolkit, and it's filled with all different kinds of clues. You really have to think of them like forensic investigators, carefully dusting for fingerprints on the artifacts of the past, and analyzing every tiny scrap of evidence they can get their hands on. All of this evidence pretty much falls into three main buckets. First, you've got the written word that came from inside the culture itself. Then, you have the actual physical stuff they left behind in the ground. And finally, you have the observations from people who were looking in from the outside. These three together, that's the foundation for our entire investigation. Let's start with that first category of clues, the texts. You can think of these as our eyewitness testimonies. They are unbelievably rich, they're super detailed. But just like with any testimony in a modern-day case, you have to listen very, very carefully and really understand the perspective of who's doing the talking. And we are talking about some of the most profound texts in all of human history here. You've got the Vedas, which give us this incredible window into early hymns and rituals. And the epic poems, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, are these enormous stories that tell us so much about social rules, values, and even politics. Now, they were never meant to be history books, but they are absolutely packed with historical clues. And this quote right here from the Rig Veda just perfectly captures the whole mindset behind these texts. It shows that the focus was on big, universal, philosophical truths, not on just recording a simple sequence of events. The goal here was wisdom, not just record-keeping. So this really gets to the core problem, right? On one hand, these texts are an absolute goldmine for understanding what people believed and how their society was structured. But on the other hand, they're a total headache for historians because they almost never mention specific dates, and their main goal is spiritual, not factual. It means you have to be a really careful interpreter. All right, let's move on to our next set of clues. If the ancient texts are the testimony, then archaeology, well, that's the hard, physical, forensic evidence. This is the stuff you can literally touch and measure. These are the undeniable traces of life that were left buried deep in the earth. And that's a fair question, you know? You dig up a broken piece of a pad or an old coin, and you might think, so what? But to a historian, these tiny, everyday objects can speak volumes. They can tell us whole stories that the written texts completely leave out. Just take a look. Coins are amazing. They're like little historical billboards. They're often stamped with the ruler's name and maybe even a date, telling us exactly who was in charge and how far their money was being used. Inscriptions carved into stone pillars, those are like direct messages from the past, maybe a royal decree from an emperor. And even simple pottery can help us map out where people lived and what their daily lives were like. And this isn't just about randomly digging holes in the ground. It is a super systematic process. You find a site, you carefully excavate it, layer by painstaking layer. Then you analyze and date what you find, using all sorts of scientific methods. And only then can you even begin to interpret what it all means. It's a slow, meticulous puzzle. So we've got the inside story from the texts, and we've got the physical evidence from the ground. But there's one more absolutely crucial piece to this puzzle, the third-party accounts. This is what other people, from totally different cultures, had to say about what they saw. For centuries, you had all these travelers, traders, and diplomats making the long journey to India. Think about the Greek ambassadors who came after Alexander the Great's campaigns, or the Chinese Buddhist pilgrims who wrote these incredibly detailed diaries about everything they saw. These accounts are so valuable for checking our facts. But, and you knew there was a but coming, we have to be critical detectives here too. These outside views are fantastic for confirming dates or describing a political situation that the local texts might just ignore. But you have to remember, these writers were seeing everything through their own cultural lenses that might completely misunderstand a custom or have their own biases. So we've got to read their accounts with that in mind.
Okay, so we have our 3 sets of clues: the texts, the artifacts, and the foreign accounts. Now comes the final, and maybe the most important step of all, putting it all together to create one coherent picture of the past. This, right here, is the biggest takeaway. Not a single source is perfect. Not the religious epics, not one little coin, not a single traveler's diary. Each one just gives you a piece of the puzzle. The real magic, the true skill of the historian, is weaving all of these different and sometimes even contradictory threads into a single, plausible story.
It's this constant process of synthesis. You take the big philosophical ideas you get from the Vedas, then you ground them in the reality of the cities and tools the archaeologists have uncovered, and then you check your timeline against the notes from a visiting Greek ambassador. It's that combination that really brings ancient India to life.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty fascinating question to think about. If history, especially for a civilization like ancient India, is built by interpreting clues instead of just reading one big, definitive record, well, it's a good reminder that our understanding of the past is always changing, always evolving. It's a detective story that's constantly being revised as new evidence comes to light. What a case.